Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Sydney from PhoneDog.com and welcome to PhoneDog Live. We are back after a 2-week hiatus. I was gone. I was gone on a vacation, and then I don't know if somebody else took over. I didn't check because I was on vacation, so I was like, they'll be fine. So officially, we are back now. I'm back doing the podcast. Sorry I missed it, guys. There was a lot that happened, and then, I was anxious to talk about all of it, and then as soon as I come back this week, nothing happens. I mean, we obviously have, some big releases from Nokia in the Windows Phone department, and then, actually, just as I was about to start the stream, which is why I'm a couple of seconds late, I was just reading, sort of breaking news, not really, that HP might be killing webOS completely. I mean, not just halfway killing it, but actually killing it. And then we have a couple of leaks and rumors, so we do have some interesting topics, but definitely a slow week compared to what the past couple of weeks, compared to what the past couple of months have been like, which is kind of funny because usually around October, November, Christmas time, holiday season, that's when things really start picking up because manufacturers release all of their biggest phones, and it's usually the busiest time of the year. And summer is usually the really dead time. But I guess it seems so far this year it's been kind of backwards because summer was extremely busy. And then now that we're getting into October, November, there haven't been a lot of releases. There have been some really big ones. Obviously, the Galaxy Nexus, which we are going to talk about just a little bit since I missed it last week. The Galaxy Nexus, the Droid Razr, again, another one that I missed while I was gone. So there have been, and then of course in the iPhone 4S, there have been some big releases, but just not as many as we usually expect. So anyway, we are going to start off with the Nokia news, simply because it just happened. And so if you're not a Windows Phone fan, I'm sorry. You can wait, come back whenever we get on to some more news. If you are watching this on YouTube, by the way, thank you for watching. Welcome. We upload this to YouTube every week. If you don't want to listen to Windows Phone news, you can check out the description below the video because it has a timeline of all of the topics. And so you can just skip around to whatever you want to watch. I say that every week because it seems like every week somebody posts a comment on YouTube with a timeline, and it's the most frustrating thing because I literally spend an hour working on that timeline because I obviously have to listen to the entire show in order to make the timeline. And then when somebody else posts it, I'm like, ugh, I just spent an hour doing that. I always delete the comment if you really want to know. But anyway, so yeah, let's get started with the news. Guys on Ustream, thanks for being here. I'm sorry I missed it. I missed you guys. Hopefully you guys will have plenty to talk about while I'm talking, since you guys never stay on topic. But just have your own little conversation. Let's see if we can get some moderators just to keep everything clean. Just a couple of house cleaning things before we officially get started with the show. I'm a little rusty because it's been like 2 weeks, and before the show I actually got kind of nervous because I hadn't done it in so long. But anyway, yeah, so let's get started. Nokia Lumia. I just said Lumina. That's a car. It used to be a car, Chevy Lumina. But no, that's not what I'm talking about. The Nokia Lumia 800 and 710 was announced. Aaron was there at the event in London, and he got some hands-on time with the devices. You can check out those videos on PhoneDog.com. Again, if you're watching the recording of this, when I post the show notes, I'll have the links to those videos, so you can just click on them. You don't have to search for everything. So if you watch those videos, the 710, the Nokia, the Lumina, I'm going to say it a million times, the problem is that my family, we had that car, the Chevy Lumina, so it's ingrained into my mind. But, okay, the Lumia 710 is kind of the more low-end or mid-ranged version of these two devices. They both have the same specs, basically. They both have a 3.7-inch display, 1.4 gigahertz single-core processor, the 710 has a 5 megapixel camera. The 800 has an 8 megapixel camera. There's like a few minor differences, but for the most part, they're both great devices. But the 710 has kind of a more plastic build, and I just, for that reason, compared to the 800, which has this amazing, high-end, awesome feel, which we're going to talk about, compared to the 800, it kind of feels like a mid-range device. So that's the 710, and then the 800 is really the kicker. It's basically like an N9 but with Windows Phone, which isn't a bad thing because the N9 had an awesome hardware design. A lot of people have compared it to an Apple product, an iPod Nano, but I sort of see the similarity, but I think, to me, I just think it looks great. It's Nokia. It's interesting in all of the hands-on videos I've seen, because I've watched a ton of them, because it's my job. That's what I do. The people that are presenting and demoing the phone, it's kind of funny. They don't really talk about the specs. They talk about how beautiful the phone is and the design, and they don't really, manufacturers, they don't really talk about that. I mean, they do, and they obviously put an emphasis on it, but to put it as the main selling point almost is kind of interesting, but it's well deserved because the 800 is a pretty awesome device. I have a picture here from when wow, it's Friday and I've been gone for 2 weeks. When Aaron got some hands-on time, that was funny, wasn't it? Okay, so here's a picture of the 800. And this picture doesn't really do it justice because it's just a front-on picture, and you can only see just the basic edges of it. But you can kind of basically see the design. It's curved on the edges except for the top, where it has some hard edges. The ridge is kind of squarish, where on the sides it's more curved. But it's a beautiful device, and I think it's important for Nokia to put so much emphasis on hardware design because that's really one of the things that they're known for, and it's one of the things that's going to set them apart and set Windows Phone apart in the marketplace. So it is made out of, I believe the material is plastic, but it's a polycarbonate material, so it's more solid. It's one block, and then they just molded everything so it has a unibody design. The color is not actually paint. It's actually molded into the material. So very well designed device. Say that 5 times fast. And then the specs are also great. And I know a lot of people have complained, it doesn't have a dual-core processor. And I think, I'm starting to lean more and more towards, yes, it would be good for them to put a dual-core processor in all these Windows Phone devices because, and people who have used Windows Phone, who have a Windows Phone device, who have tested one out, will tell you that Windows Phone doesn't need a dual-core processor. It just doesn't. I have a phone, it's a 1 gigahertz processor, and it works great, everything's smooth. Obviously, it would be, better with a dual-core processor, but as it is, it's fantastic with, little to no lag. So Windows Phone doesn't really need a dual-core processor, and I've said that several times, but I think, I'm realizing that in order for Windows Phone to compete, it is going to need a little bump in the spec department, just to look good on paper, even though, performance-wise it doesn't really need it, but just to look good on paper. Of course, there's some people that won't matter to, but anyway, it does have a single-core processor, 1.4 gigahertz, so, not a shabby processor. Both of them have that, and let me show you guys a picture of the 710 while I'm talking about it, since I showed you a picture of the 800. This is the 710, and so you can see it has a more, mid-range, plasticky feel, more of a Nokia feel to it, whereas the 800 has a more modern feel to it, but that's the 710. But anyway, they both have a 1.4 gigahertz single-core processor, 3.7-inch display. The 800 has an AMOLED display with clear black technology, resolution of 800 by 480, but that AMOLED display is really beautiful. And then the 710 has just a basic TFT LCD display, WVGA again, with also the clear black technology. So I think the front runner here is really the 800. Now the question is, can these devices actually compete in the market? Can they compete in the US market? Will they help Windows Phone? I think that's the question that everyone is asking. I mean, there's no question that the devices are great phones. That the 800 it's beautiful, has great specs, it's got a great camera, Carl Zeiss lens, Nokia is known for that. There's no question that it's a good phone. But the question is, can it compete in the market, and will this do anything for Windows Phone? And we have a couple of editorials on PhoneDog that you can read, kind of mulling over this question where, the writers give their own opinion on it. There's actually a really interesting article on CNET about this topic. Can these Lumia smartphones make it in the US? And that's a big question that everyone is wondering, and it's one that has basically been asked before, because what it all boils down to is there room for a third operating system? We have iOS, we have Android, they're dominating, and then other kind of small operating systems have come and gone. webOS kind of came and then went. We have Windows Mobile, who was kind of like up there, and then it just kind of died off because that was not that great of an operating system. And so now Windows Phone is trying to edge its way in. Nokia with Symbian, in Europe, they were trying to get their thing going. But the question is, is there room for a third operating system? And what this article brings out is that there is, if you approach it from the right angle, because it brings out some interesting statistics. And obviously Nokia is very optimistic about market share, about what they can do. Stephen Elup said excuse me, he said, "It's a new dawn for Nokia, and we believe the world is ready for something new, something more integrated and more beautiful, and we think that we can break through." And that's really the key. Excuse me, I need to take a drink of water, sorry. That's really the key. Something new, something more integrated, and something more beautiful. iOS has been around for years. Android has been around for years, but we want something new or just something different. Maybe for somebody who doesn't like iOS or doesn't like Android, something new and different, something beautiful. They've obviously put a lot of thought into the hardware design, and Windows Phone itself, the operating system, is very elegant. But the integrated part is another one that, again, goes back to their approach to smartphones, because, and let me give you this number and then I'll move on to what I'm actually talking about. Let me see if I can actually find the number in my notes. Smartphone share, 40% of wireless subscribers own a smartphone, which means that 60% of US wireless customers are still using basic feature phones. So you think, okay, Android owns, whatever, 40% of the market, but that's 40% of the 40% that own smartphones. So when you think about it that way, there's still a lot of people out there to market to. Just because Android dominates doesn't mean the game is over. There's still 60% of the US that doesn't even have a smartphone yet. So by the numbers, there is room. But going back to that integration point that I was talking about, Windows Phone has this different approach to a smartphone, whereas with iOS, it's all about apps. With Android, it's all about apps. With Windows Phone, it's really just about turning on the phone and not having to download apps, but just being able to simply use the phone and not download an app to do, one thing or several different things. The new features that have come with Mango, integration in Bing Search, you have Bing Vision, Bing Music, Bing Maps, the Quick Cards, Local Scout. You can do all of these things, whereas with iOS and Android, you would have to download, 5 apps. With Windows Phone, it's all of that functionality is available out of the box without having to download any apps. And so I think that different approach, that will appeal to some people, and that's really the key, because this was said before. I think I mentioned this, that someone said about the iPad back when we were talking about tablets and is there room for another tablet. There was an analyst that said the only tablet that will be successful, the only iPad competitor that will be successful is the one that's not trying to be the iPad, the one that isn't trying to just copy it, but actually has its own approach. And so I think that is really the key to Nokia's success, Windows Phone success. If they don't try to tell people we're just like iOS, we have apps and we're like Android because of this and that. If they don't try to lie to people, but just say, yes, we're different. We have a different approach to smartphones, and you're gonna like it. I think if they can really push that, then there is room for a third operating system. And in the US, because, Android and iOS, that's only two options. I mean, honestly, people, that's not enough. I mean, Android loyalists and iOS loyalists, they go back and forth on who has the largest market share and which is the best operating system or the most apps or, this or that. But, the bottom line is no matter which one is the best, there's only two. I mean, when is it ever okay to have only two options? I mean, cars, there's dozens of car companies, computers. There's so many different options with every other product. We need more options with smartphones. And I think people know that, because why else would there still be 60% of the US that doesn't have a smartphone yet? Maybe they don't like what they see. Maybe they don't like iOS. Maybe they don't like Android. Windows Phone with its different approach, I think there's room for it. Now, I'm not preaching Windows Phone and pushing everyone to get one because, it's not going to appeal to everyone. And will it fail? There's a possibility, yes. I mean, right now it's sitting at 1% market share. So there's definitely a possibility that, these phones could go nowhere, especially if they don't release them in the US. I mean, this was brought out in one of the editorials that we did that I mentioned earlier, that it's possible that maybe Microsoft and Nokia don't want to focus on the US right now. Maybe they want to just focus on Europe and Asia and India and really push the operating system there. And then when they have more worldwide market share and mind share, maybe then they'll come back to the US. I mean, maybe that's their approach. Me personally, I live in the US, so I'm kind of disappointed. I'm like, I like that Nokia Lumia 800. I would like to have that in the US. So I don't know. Nokia said that these devices are going to be released in the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, France, Spain, the Netherlands in November. Russia, India, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore will get it in December. There's no word on if or when we'll get these devices in the US. Obviously, Nokia has said they will be releasing Windows Phone devices in the US in 2012. But we don't know if it'll be these specific devices. There's been rumors that the 710 is the one that will come to the US. I personally think that's a big mistake because it's the cheap plastic one. I mean, yeah, it has great specs, but you need like the whole package. If you're going to come in and try to make a dent, you need the entire package. The specs, the operating system, the display, the hardware, 4G, you need it all in order to just, come in here and do something. Otherwise, you're just releasing a device just for the sake of saying that you did something. So, but that's the rumor, that the 710 is going to be the one that comes to the US. In the meantime, the 710 and the 800 will be available in Europe and Asia, India, and we'll see. We'll see how it does. I use Windows Phone as my personal device. I have an Android device also, just because I like going back and forth. But I use a Windows Phone device, my personal device, so I'm excited to see, how it does. And just, being a person that covers smartphones, like I was saying earlier, and I tweeted about this yesterday. I went on Twitter and I went on this rant because I just got so frustrated with this constant debate of, Android is better, iOS is better, we have more market share, we ship more devices, we sell more devices, and blah, 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 blah. And it doesn't matter because they're both great operating systems, and that's it. That's bottom line. Find the one that you like, buy it, and then just shut up, okay? There's enough of this debate. And so it's just frustrating, and so it's kind of just nice to have a third operating system come in and just be a different option. And its options are great. They're wonderful. So anyway, that's the Nokia Lumia 800 and 710. Let's move on to some more big news. Now, there was some big news. There was actually some big news this week. Besides Nokia, Sony Ericsson is no longer Sony Ericsson. Sony bought its share of Sony buys Ericsson out of mobile joint venture for $1.05 billion. I'm just going to read the headline since I can't get the words right. Basically, Sony and Ericsson are no longer partners anymore, which is, sort of surprising, but at the same time not really, because we had heard rumors about that, for a while now, so it wasn't entirely surprising, but it still kind of just, came out of nowhere. We weren't expecting it when it happened. Sorry. Excuse me. So, yeah, they, for basically $1.1 billion cash, like not stocks or assets or anything like that, just cash. And they've been joined together for a little over 10 years, and they just decided to go their separate ways. It was a good partnership. They made a lot of great devices together. They got into the Android game late, which I think was a mistake, and a lot of people agreed that it was a mistake, that they really should have gotten into the Android market faster, but they didn't. And so now the question is, okay, now that Sony is on its own, is this good for Sony or is it bad? And I think for the most part, people agree that it is good. While it's not going to be a lifesaver for Sony, they still have an uphill climb. It is good because now they can fully integrate all of their products, which is what they plan to do. That's what they said whenever they announced the buyout. What they plan to do is have full integration with their phones, computers, TVs, tablets, make it just all one smooth experience, which is really awesome because, I've talked about this before, how, we have all these amazing gadgets, stuff that we used to see in futuristic movies, and you watch these movies and the things that they do with these gadgets, and everything works so smoothly, and they can go from this gadget to this gadget, and it all just works, and they work together. And the reason why everything works together so smoothly in futuristic movies is because there's no brands. So you don't have to worry about compatibility, or I'm not compatible with that product, or you don't have this port, or whatever. You don't have to worry about compatibility. There's no brands. Whereas in the real world, there's brands. So nothing is compatible with anything unless it's the same brand. And so for Sony, this will be a huge advantage because they will be able to do that. If you have a Sony TV, a Sony laptop, phone, tablet, then everything will be connected. It'll work seamlessly the way it's supposed to. The only problem I foresee with this scenario is that Sony makes great TVs and they make great laptops, but the phone and tablet, area is a little lacking. Now, don't get me wrong, the Xperia Arc was a good phone. I've tested out, Xperia phones, the UI that they've added. It's not one of my favorites, but it has certain elements that I really enjoy. They make good phones, but they're never like killer phones. They're never that phone that is just, the top phone on the market. Not that it has to be, but I think it's kind of lacking. They could do a little better with their smartphone lineup, and maybe they will. Maybe a lot of that was just trying to get Sony and Ericsson to work together, and maybe they just didn't agree on some stuff, and so maybe their hands were tied, and maybe they wanted to make it better, but they just couldn't. So, but I do, regardless of what the reason was, I do think they could improve their smartphone lineup, and then tablets. They just now entered the tablet market with the S1 and the S2. Very odd form factors. I don't think it was the best way to enter the market, but, it's what they did. But, obviously they could grow on that and do better. So, but basically my point is, you have to make me want to own a Sony smartphone. You have to make me want to own a Sony tablet, because otherwise I'm not going to buy it just for the sake of having it connected. You had the tablet that worked with the television. They announced that, but the tablet didn't work very well. It didn't perform very well. It had hardware issues. So, that was a problem. It was great that it was all integrated, but it wasn't that great of a tablet. So it was, kind of, you're like, well, I don't really want to buy it, even if it's integrated. If it doesn't work, then, what's the point? So that's the only problem I foresee. And I think Sony will recognize that and hopefully do a better job. 1.1 billion euros. Did I say dollars? I meant to say euros. That was the price. 1.1 billion euros is a lot of money, and so I'm sure they have thought this through very carefully and made the best decision. And I'm anxious to see what they do with it. Microsoft, they have some integration with their phone and Xbox Live and, computers, with Office. And so they kind of have that going. And so Sony is maybe like, oh, okay, we could do, throw in PlayStation, our phones, tablets, computers. I mean, they could really have the same sort of thing going that Microsoft has. Google has tried to do that with Google TV, but, that was that didn't really work out very well. So it's clear that integration is something that people want. It just hasn't worked out very well yet, not because of the idea, but just because of the products. I think the idea is great, but the products aren't there yet. And so, don't give up on it. Like, don't give up on the idea. We just need better products, and then, maybe then it'll catch on. Let's see. Let's move on to Samsung beats out Apple in global shipments to take top smartphone manufacturer title. This is a big topic that just, came out. The World Strategy Analytics just did this study. And basically Samsung has surpassed Apple in terms of global smartphone shipments and market share. Now, there's been Xbox's crap. Nice. I have a PS3 now. I had an Xbox. In some ways I prefer the Xbox, in some ways I prefer the PS3. It kind of just, I think they're both, great consoles. To me, it seems that graphics are better on the PS3 and also the game selection in terms of exclusive titles. But anyway, I wouldn't say Xbox is crap. Anyway, so I just totally got off topic there. Going back to this, Samsung taking over global smartphone shipments and market share, the debate is that, people are saying, okay, well, yeah, they may have shipped more phones, but how many do they actually sell? And that's the question. The Apple, well, I don't want to say just the Apple news websites, but the people who are a little more skeptical are basically saying that, they may have shipped 27.8 million smartphones, but how many did they actually sell? And I'm not going to get into that debate because the numbers are there, and they're not comparing. It's not like the numbers are comparing apples to oranges. Okay, you want to know how many they shipped? Samsung shipped 27.8 million, Apple shipped 17.1 million. There's a big difference there. Now, Samsung didn't give specific numbers on how many they sold. However, Strategy Analytics could come up with an easy number based on Samsung's estimate of a 40% growth over last year. So they just took last year's numbers and added 40%, and they got to this number. So it's really not that complicated. Anyway, so and then Nokia is still the king worldwide in terms of the phone market, just all phones included. They shipped 106 million, and they have a market share of 27.3. But the big story here is just that, Samsung overtook Apple. Now, again, this is for quarter 3, so this doesn't take into account the Apple iPhone 4S, the iPhone 4 that is launched on, a couple of new carriers. But it also doesn't take into account the Galaxy S2. So you could say, well, if you were to include the iPhone 4S, then that number would be way different. But, if you were to include the Galaxy S2, it may be the same. So, we'll have to wait until the numbers come out for next quarter or, at the end of this quarter to actually see if it's true. Personally, again, going back to the debate, this is something that Android fans and iOS fans argue about so much. Who has the most market share? Who has the most shipments? Who sells the most devices? And honestly, I don't understand it because, they both sell millions and millions of devices. There's hundreds of thousands of activations each week because they're both amazing operating systems, and for some reason people are so devoted to these OSs that they want to make sure that nobody else has a chance at surviving, which just doesn't make any sense. The Droid 4 shows off its keyboard for the camera. Now, this is interesting because the Droid 4, I was like, oh, okay, cool, because we just had the Droid 3, and so obviously there's going to be a Droid 4. The hardware design looked cool. You can see it here. It looks basically like the Droid Razr, but with a physical keyboard. The keyboard looks awesome. The spec sheet for this phone, at least the rumored spec sheet that we have so far, sounds great. 4-inch Super AMOLED advanced display. Android 2.3.5, 8 megapixel camera with 1080p HD video capture. Sounds like a great phone, but it's funny because despite being an amazing phone, I've heard people complain about it because they say, what the heck, you just released the Droid 3 like a couple of months ago, and really just calm down, everybody, because we're just now, this is the first leak we've seen of the Droid 4, so you know how long it's going to take to actually get this device on the market. It could be another 3 to 4 months, or it could be another 6 months, who knows. It takes a long time from the first time that we hear or see these leaks. And so, yeah, I mean, it's no surprise that as soon as the Droid 3 was announced, Motorola is already working on the Droid 4. That's what they have to do in order to have it ready in time. If they waited a year, it wouldn't be ready for another year after that. So, don't feel like Motorola is releasing the follow-up 3 months later. It could still take a while before this phone comes out. But the bottom line is that it sounds like an awesome device. I'm partial to phones with a physical keyboard because I just feel better with a physical keyboard. It's a mental thing. I mean, I can type fine with a virtual keyboard, but with a physical keyboard where I actually have the keys there, it just makes me feel so much better when I'm typing. I feel more comfortable, at least. So I do love it when phones have a physical keyboard. I've never really been a fan of the Droid's physical keyboard. Of course, the original Droid had a terrible keyboard, and it seems like with every version since then, it's been getting better. So the Droid 3, I hear, had one of the best physical keyboards around. Maybe the Droid 4 will be even better. Okay, let's move on to one final topic that we have before possibly moving on to the open Q&A. It depends on how long it takes to cover this. I mentioned this in the introduction about how we just got some news about webOS possibly being killed off by Stewie. I see you want to talk about the Note, the Galaxy Note. I actually wasn't planning on talking about that, but anyway, we just heard some news that HP could be killing webOS for good. They had an analyst call, and not today, but previous analyst call they had. Meg Whitman said, the whole team is working very hard to make the right decisions. We'll make a decision about long-term webOS within the next couple of months. So we were like, okay, maybe they'll keep it, maybe they won't, but at least they're thinking about it. And then just today, just now before I started the broadcast, we got a couple of quotes. Couple of quotes from sources here and there, people in the company, basically saying that it is for sure that they are just going to completely kill webOS. For now, that's just a rumor. We don't know if it will actually happen, but it's kind of been coming for a while now. I mean, despite the fact that it's been this back and forth, I think deep down we've all kind of known that HP just obviously didn't have a lot of interest in keeping webOS alive, because if they did, they wouldn't have this constant debate, mulling over if they should keep it or not. They would just be jumping on it and releasing great devices. But it's almost like, is it worth it to lose the money? But anyway, so I just want to let you guys know about that. And let me see. I got some new devices this week. While Aaron was in London, I got the DoublePlay from T-Mobile, which is this really interesting device. I'll talk about it in just a minute. And I also got the Samsung Stratosphere. I posted an unboxing video of the Samsung Stratosphere that you can check out. A lot of people have the opinion that the Stratosphere is basically just a recycled Epic 4G, just basically made for Verizon. In a lot of ways it is, same hardware design, same physical keyboard, same processor. It is an LTE device, but it also ships with Gingerbread, which is something you can't say about the Epic, and it has a newer version of TouchWiz UI. So minor improvements, but I don't know, to me, I think they're worthy improvements. Obviously, the price point is going to matter for a lot of people. But anyway, I've been testing it out. Speaking of which, Verizon's LTE is like freaking fast. I got the phone and I'm thinking, I've tested 4G devices and, it's fast and I'm blown away and everything. So I was expecting, 7 to 12, like somewhere in that range, 7 to 12 megabits per second down. And I did some tests. The very first test that I did, I got 27 megabits per second down. It was amazing. And I was like, what the heck? And then I did another one. I got 25 megabits per second. And I'm just thinking, okay, I thought I was connected to Wi-Fi. I double and triple checked the settings to make sure I was not connected to Wi-Fi because it was so fast. So that's probably the thing I'm most impressed about with the phone is just Verizon's LTE network is incredibly fast. I'm in the Dallas area, so obviously it's going to vary depending on coverage in your area. I'm smack dab in the middle of 4G coverage, so it won't be that fast everywhere, and I'm not saying, Verizon's perfect, but at least in my area, if you're in Dallas, check out Verizon LTE because it's pretty fast. I do want to touch on the LG DoublePlay because this is a pretty interesting phone, and before you tune me out, because I know a lot of people, when they see the form factor with this display on the keyboard and the kind of odd design, they're like, it's just a stupid phone. And that's what I thought. I was like, okay, this is dumb. I mean, you're gonna have a display on the keyboard and then you're gonna chop the keyboard in half. It just seemed like a really bad idea. But I got the phone, so obviously I have to review it and I have to have an open mind because that's what we do with every device. And I was actually very pleasantly surprised with how cool this idea actually is. And I'm telling you, the phone isn't perfect, and if it were thinner and lighter and maybe had some better specs, it would definitely be a lot better. It's a shame that it is such a cool concept, but it's on a phone that no one's really going to be interested in just because of the spec sheet and everything. But it's really thick and bulky. It's very thick and bulky. But anyway, the cool thing about this, the very first thing that I did just in real world usage, when I did the unboxing, I kind of like played around with the idea a little bit, but just in real world usage, I was using the phone and I was watching a video on ESPN and I had the phone open and then I got a text message. And so on the little display, I don't know if you guys will be able to see that. Let me go to... Yeah, so on the little display, it told me that I had a text message. And so while I was watching a video up here, down here, I went to messaging and I typed out a text message, I sent it, and the video was playing the entire time. And it was amazing. The fact that I could do that, I can web browse and send a message. I can be web browsing and then below I can check out the windows that are open without having to close the current window. While I'm sending a text message up top, I can go down and open the Notepad application. It's just like all this functionality, and it's so cool, and it's very useful. I mean, when I first heard about it, I was like, that's lame. That's lame. Everything's lame. That's a quote from Family Guy. But then when I actually use it, it's very practical. But it's a shame. The problem is that it's just so thick. It's so heavy. The display, it's a small display, has a low resolution. It's basically like a mid-range device. And so, it won't appeal to everybody. But the idea is awesome. If it were on a thinner device, if it had a larger display, it does have a 1 gigahertz processor, but I've noticed some lag. It's choppy. You can see the screen is off right now, and then if I open the keyboard, see the delay? It's stuff like that. I know it's only like a second or two, but there is a delay on several tasks. So it's not perfect, but the idea is really awesome. So it's a shame that because using it, I was like, wow, I could actually, this is very cool. And then I go back to the Stratosphere, which also has a physical keyboard, so I'll be typing, and then I'll wish that I had that functionality because it's actually very useful. So anyway, I like the idea. Hopefully, if it catches on, it'll be on better devices because it is actually really cool. So the point of all of that is, for some reason, I like sticking up for the underdog because, I don't know, maybe because no one else does, but I don't like it whenever people write off a device before they even use it. You know, people do that with, you know, weird form factors, the Echo, the Kyocera Echo, the DoublePlay, Windows Phone. You know, a lot of people have just written it off. They haven't even used the phone, and they're already saying it's going to be a piece of crap. And so I don't know, that frustrates me. And so I'm the kind of person, I'm going to give it a shot. And then if it is a piece of crap, obviously I'll say that. But with a double shot, I was wrong. It's not a piece of crap. It's actually very, very useful. So look at it, you know, check it out in the store. I don't know if I would recommend buying it just because of the price. The hardware design, the overall performance isn't all there, but hopefully that idea will catch on. So let us move on. I believe that's all I have in my notes today. So it's 4:41, a little bit early, but we can move on to the open Q&A. So if you're on Ustream, I'll be checking those questions and comments. You can ask anything. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment there. And I'll be checking those comments, and so I'll respond to the ones that I can if you have a question. I can't respond to all of them, but I do read those. So leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. But for now, we'll check Ustream, and we'll see. Is a new BlackBerry coming to Virgin Mobile USA? I've been asked that a million times, and I don't know. We don't have any leaks or rumors about it at all. My guess is that yes, eventually. Obviously, they have the BlackBerry Curve now, so it only makes sense that eventually they are going to get the new BlackBerry Curve. I just don't know when. And that's just my hypothesis based on, you know, past history. Is the Atrix 2 a worthy upgrade to the iPhone 3GS? Yeah, from the iPhone 3GS, yeah, definitely. Any phone today is an upgrade to the yeah, basically. Sydney, what music do you listen to? I like pretty much anything that sounds good. I don't like country, I will say that. But I listen to, I think right now probably my favorite band is AWOL Nation. I have their new album and it is awesome. It is, every song on there is good. So AWOL Nation is probably my favorite band. But let me see, I like the Beatles, Matchbox 20, Adele. I have some Adele. Let me see. Let me check my Slacker radio. I use Slacker radio for music. Actually, that's going to take too long. But yeah, those are my favorite artists. Let me see. AWOL Nation. Oh, The Killers. I do like The Killers. And then yeah, I like a lot of 90s music just because I grew up in the 90s, and so going back and listening to all those hits, you know, Blues Traveler and Delamitri and Britney Spears, it's, you know, brings back memories. So I like 90s music. What do you think of Android 4.0 on phones and on tablets? I think it looks great. It looks better than, you know, the final version of it looks better than, you know, previous leaked versions that we've seen. Looks good, very smooth. They've integrated some nice features in the overall design. It looks nice. You know, it's not quite appealing to me visually, but I think it looks good. Aerosmith. I don't listen to a lot of Aerosmith. Oh, My Chemical Romance. That's probably another one of my favorite bands. Probably My Chemical Romance, The Killers, AWOL Nation, The Beatles, Queen, and then, you know, a couple of other singers here and there. Do you still use a Windows Phone 7 device? Yes, I do. Do you think the HTC Wildfire S is a good phone to upgrade to? Yeah, on Virgin Mobile actually has a great lineup now. And yeah, I'd recommend that. Sydney, have you seen the new productivity future prediction video? Yeah, I've seen that on Microsoft's YouTube channel. Yeah, I saw that. Very cool. You know, I don't know when or if any of that is going to happen, but you know, it's good that they're thinking about stuff. I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me, sorry, I had to sneeze. That just came out of nowhere. Let me see. I cannot keep up with Samsung. Got the Samsung Infused 4G and the Galaxy S2 came out. Don't worry about it. I tell people this all the time. They'll be like, I just got the Droid Bionic, and do you think I should upgrade to the Droid Razr? Don't worry about it. I mean, there's minor improvements, but the the Bionic is a great phone. The Infuse is a great phone. When I tell people, when they ask me about picking a phone out, I say, find one that you like, that is within your budget, and has the features that you want. Buy it and learn to be happy with it. You have to learn to be satisfied with what you have. Otherwise, you'll never be content with anything, and contentment is one of the keys to life. I mean, you'll kill yourself trying to always have the next best thing, and it's impossible. So, yeah, let me get off my soapbox. The Infuse is a great phone. Don't worry about it. If you want to get the Galaxy S2, if you have the money, go for it. If not, there's going to be another phone. Even if you did get the Galaxy S2, there's going to be another phone in 3 months anyway, so it's just a vicious circle. Do you think the HD7 with Mango is a good device to upgrade to, or wait for the Radar? I wouldn't wait for the Radar, maybe the Titan. The Radar is kind of like the mid-range version of the two Windows Phone devices that HTC announced. I would maybe look at the Titan. The HD7, it's a good device, but I mean, it's a year old, so, I would wait for something else. Can you make your next background for the next Dog Pound episode Mario? I'll think about it. I get a lot of suggestions for the wallpaper, which is funny because, it's just a wallpaper. But I enjoy doing the Dog Pound videos. I hope you guys like them. It's just kind of a nice time for me to just be myself. Not that, I'm acting every other time, but, we have to maintain a level of professionalism while we're doing our videos and while I'm doing this podcast. And so with the Dog Pound, I get to just be myself and crack stupid jokes, which is what I do all the time. It's funny, though. People ask me, I get a lot of comments on YouTube. They ask, does Aaron know that you're doing these videos? Because I guess they think that the videos really suck. And so they ask me all the time if Aaron knows that I do those videos because they're not like cell phone related. And I'm just thinking, Aaron is the editor-in-chief, right? I mean, how in the world would I be able to upload a video on our YouTube channel and put it on PhoneDog without him knowing? That would be impossible. So yes, he knows about it. We talk about all content before we post it. Anyway, I've got, my question went away. Let me see. How do you think Apple will deal with the 4S battery problem? Every phone has problems. I don't doubt that there are some 4Ss with battery problems. It could just be that, maybe the battery needs to be burned in a little bit. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how dramatic it is, if there's tons of people or if maybe it's just something that will be fixed over time. I think the videos are awesome. They don't suck in the least. Thank you. Is the BlackBerry Playbook a good tablet? Yeah, it's a great tablet. Spec-wise, it's awesome. If you like BlackBerry products, if that sort of, enterprise system works for you, then yeah, I think it's a great tablet. You should include the Ustream comments in the Dog Pound. Well, I don't have to, whenever I end the stream, all of the comments go away, so, and even now, if I were to scroll all the way back up to the top, it wouldn't actually go to the top of the comments, so it would be basically impossible. Sydney, could you give a 2-hour vodcast? No, I'm sure not everyone would like that. Were you disappointed with the new iPods? In a way, yeah, but if you think about it, what else are they going to do? They're great products. Do you think Justin Bieber will get a rhyme? Sorry, I got to get that in there. Once AT&T releases LTE phones, will they still work on HSPA+? Well, it depends on if they, add the hardware that will make it compatible with the HSPA+ network. That's just up to AT&T. eventually, it will be all LTE, but it depends on AT&T's strategy. They may decide to make it compatible with both, or maybe not. What are the rumors for the first LTE phone on AT&T? Let me see. I don't know if we know that for sure yet. That's still a ways off. AT&T LTE. AT&T has confirmed that an LTE device is coming this year, which is interesting considering it's October. But we don't have any details on the device itself. We have a couple of LTE tablets. They could just be talking about a broadband device, an LTE broadband device, but we don't have any details on a phone. Do you think the Kindle Fire will be a good competitor against the iPad? Yeah, I think it'd be great. It's something different. It's all about media consumption, and we've talked about this before in one of the podcasts. We discussed it, and I feel like a tablet is meant for media consumption. The problem is that no one wants to pay $500 to $800 for a toy, essentially. And so that's why, tablets outside of the iPad don't sell well, because they're, so expensive considering, what they're meant for. With the Kindle Fire, Amazon is like, yeah, it's for media consumption, it's for fun, but it's okay because it's only $200, and I think that's really the key. So yeah, I think it'll do well. I'm anxious to get one. I will probably get one, but I am going to, wait till some reviews come out and see if I can get some hands-on time with it first. Oh, how I want Siri on Windows Phone and Android. Please talk about the almighty Note. Siri doesn't work in the UK. That's interesting. The Note, yeah. What do you want to talk about with the Note? What do you think about the Nintendo future after the terrible Q3 earnings? Do you think that physical... I'm just running through questions and then I pick one. Do you think that physical keyboards will be killed in high-end Android devices? I'm not sure. We still have the Droid 4. The Droid lineup still has a physical keyboard, so I don't think so. Galaxy Note too big to be a phone. It's a mini tab. Do you ask any guys about the rhyme when you got it? Oh, did you ask any guys about the rhyme when you got it? I'm not sure what you mean by that. What will be your next phone or Windows Phone, and do you think Apple will go after Microsoft next? No, I think Apple has a vendetta against with Android specifically, and if you read quotes of things that Steve Jobs has said or said about Android when it was first released, he was pissed off about it. Basically, he felt that Android was a blatant ripoff of iOS, even though it's actually very different. But I mean, there are some elements that are similar, obviously, but I mean, I wouldn't say it's a blatant copy, but he felt like Android was just a blatant carbon copy of iOS, and he was extremely mad, and so he launched an all-out attack. He said he would fight against Android until his dying breath. He said that he would destroy Android. Whenever he talked with whenever he talked with Google about, the patent infringement, and they, offered money as a settlement, he said, I don't want your money, I want you to stop using Android. Steve Jobs, his personal vendetta was against Android specifically. I don't think Windows Phone is really a problem for them. Obviously, nobody likes, competition that hurts, but I think the real problem is with Android. So I don't think Apple will go after Microsoft. They may. Obviously, if Microsoft is infringing on patents, then they have the right to, so they may, but I think the problem is really just Android. Should I buy a Nokia Lumia 800 or wait for Nokia's Apollo devices? Well, we really don't know when the Apollo devices are going to come, so who knows how long you're going to have to wait. The Lumia 800 is a great device. I mean, I'd go for it. Android rulers. iOS can't even have a home screen or notification bar. Well, iOS does have a notification bar now. iOS has a lot of advantages that Android doesn't have. Android has a lot of advantages that iOS doesn't have. I think the perfect operating system would be both of them mixed together. What is a deal breaker for you when you buy a high-end smartphone? A deal breaker for me? I'm really big on well, at least with Android, I think the things that matter to me the most are the UI and the price. I won't pay $300 for a phone. I just won't. I mean, I know the Droid Razr is an awesome phone, and I would recommend it to other people, but I wouldn't buy it myself, because I'm not going to pay $300 for a phone. If I could get a special on it, I would. But anyway, and then the UI. I mean, I know with Android I can download launchers and you know, jail or root it and do all kinds of crap to it, but it's just so much easier if it comes with a UI that I enjoy, that I like. Granted, you know, when I had an Android device, I downloaded a different launcher all the time, and I customized the heck out of that thing. That's one of the great things about Android. But probably that, you know, and the price is probably the biggest thing for me. Check Facebook. What if I don't want to check Facebook? Huh? What if I was intentionally ignoring it? Okay, Facebook. Oh, we have 2 questions. Which phone is this? And agreed, US doesn't use much Nokias. Is that what you're referring to, or is there some other question that I missed? Okay, oh, there's a question that I missed. Are you going to start posting every video to the... No, I'm not. Sorry, that was rude. What phone from HTC, Samsung, Motorola do you predict will get an update to Ice Cream Sandwich? What phones... Well, obviously the newest ones, the ones that have come out in the past couple of months, I would say are definitely a shoo-in. Beyond that, you know, it's kind of difficult to say. We really don't know, but I would say the ones that were released from, you know, June, July onward, I would guess would definitely get Ice Cream Sandwich. It's 4:57, so we have 3 minutes left. What do you think about... Oh, okay. What do you think about Nokia future after the terrible Q3 earnings? I'm not sure. For HTC, anything with Sense 3 and higher, probably. Okay, for devices to get Ice Cream Sandwich. Yeah, good observation. I wish I had an ice cream sandwich. I wish I had an ice cream sandwich. Thanks for being able to do these live videos. You're welcome. Sydney, I missed you so much. You are so cool. Thank you. What are your thoughts on the Sony Ericsson Xperia line? Great phones. You know, I've never been extremely impressed with them, but I do, you know, the Xperia X10 was a great phone. The Arc was a good phone. But, you know, there's just never been like that killer device that really made me want it. I hope the Atrix 4G gets Ice Cream Sandwich. Any info on Ice Cream Sandwich on Galaxy S2? No. We have no idea, really. Isn't polycarbonate a fancy way to say plastic? Yeah, I said that earlier, that it is plastic, but it's the way it's molded and designed is not just like a plastic device that Samsung makes. It's a little more high-end feeling. Do you feel with each passing lawsuit between Apple, Samsung, HTC, God, I wouldn't doubt... What? You're losing it a little bit. I don't understand that question. Maybe the God part threw me off. What do you think about... Oh my goodness, that question popped up again. How was your vacation? It was nice. I was in California. I went there with my family. We rented a house on the beach, and we were there for a week. It was nice. I just pretty much laid around and rested and laid on the beach all day. Glad you had fun. Thank you. Just waiting on some questions. It's 4:59, so we only have 1 minute left. Questions, people. You don't have to. I mean, I enjoy just sitting here. It kind of gives me a chance to take a break. Anyway, but since we do only have a minute left, I'll start closing it up. Thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry I was gone for 2 weeks, but it's good to be back. I will be posting the recording of this on YouTube, so if you miss anything, you can watch it on YouTube. I'll have a timeline. You can check that out. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for watching. Leave a comment, a question if you want to, but keep it on phonedog.com. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, my screen name is It's My Job to Know. I can't answer every question that I get, but I do try to answer the ones that are answerable and that don't, come to me at 1 o'clock in the morning. I know there's people like in different time zones, but sometimes I get messages on Twitter at 1 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, yeah, if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, ask me a question. I'll try to answer as many as I can. My screen name is It's My Job to Know. Thanks, guys, for watching the broadcast. I will see you guys next week, same time, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on our Ustream channel. See you guys later. Bye.